and I'm feeling good.
Zoroaster wrote, "The bell curve is a good idea that got whacked because it said what many people did not want to hear. Sort of like bestiality. Folks really don't want to hear what those guys have to say." Now, Zoroaster, first of all, I'm not clear here. Are you suggesting that bestiality is a good idea that people don't want to hear? Because you just said that the bell curve was like that. I'm a little confused where you're going with this. Charles Murray, he goes on to say, made some very well documented and researched points.
Shouldn't we, I just want to remind people that what this is about is that we had an argument, or we brought into the discussion last week the fact that some people say black people are just mentally inferior, and and there have been some scientific studies that seem to have said that, except that a lot of people think they're very flawed.
Right. We got to that discussion thanks to Ann Coulter.
Oh, yes.
Oh, yeah.
Who made this crazy claim that liberals are incapable of accepting the findings of science because of our preconceptions. And this is an area where potentially she could have a point. And I think that's what Zoroaster is telling us. That Ann Coulter on this issue was right. So Charles Murray is the guy apparently who did the study. He made some very well documented and researched points. Regretfully, most people didn't want to hear what he had to say because some of what he said rubbed them the wrong way. First, he said people have different cognitive abilities. He also said they have different numbers of hairs on their heads, different physical abilities, and differing abilities in a long iteration of qualities. You can take everyone's abilities and spread them out on a rating scale, and you arrive at a mean, a median, standard deviations, and all sorts of mathematical relationships and ratios. Now, what everyone lost sight of was his recommendation on why he identified people in groups of cognitive capability. It was to then focus your education dollars in a way that can best resolve society's goals. That means taking the bottom 10% and giving them a disproportionately larger portion of the education budget. These guys and gals need the most amount of help. Paying for education for these people means you can avoid paying for prisons, illegitimate children, welfare, and court systems later. The next group is the top 10%. These are the guys and girls who will give you your new ideas and products. This group should get a disproportionately larger portion of the education budget. By identifying groups in this way, cognitive capability, you have a better chance of focusing the money where it is best used. Okay. See, I'm really torn about this. On the one hand, I certainly agree that knowing the facts is important.
And
if these are facts, then they are things we should know. However, and I haven't done a deep search into this, it could be that what has trickled down to me is filtered by a bunch of biases against the Charles Murray's conclusions. But I don't think so. As I understand it, there were serious problems with the way that this guy formulated his rating scales, and that there's really, in reality, not that big of a difference or any difference mathematically significant. But on top of that, I'm very concerned about where we go with certain kinds of information. I mean, we could perhaps invent a test that would prove beyond a shadow of a doubt who was going to be a murderer when they grew up. Does that then give us the right to preemptively treat those people like murderers? That seems to be the inevitable danger to come out of any kind of test that claims to tell us how somebody else is going to be able to perform in the future, right? Or how they will perform. it's incredibly dangerous.
But they're talking about groups, which statistically average out.
No, he's saying you divide people into groups like black people and Hispanic people and Asian people, and you test within those groups.
Right.
And then you decide how to treat those groups based on how those groups performed. I think that's incredibly dangerous.
It is incredibly dangerous. It's also incredibly efficient. And I'm torn.
Well,
I have no idea.
There's kinds of efficiency that I think we might actually not want to
do.
Yeah,
yes, I agree.
Because just because you can do, I mean the Christians are not wrong when they scream that certain things are incredibly dangerous or bad, and we oughtn't be doing them. They're usually wrong about what those things are, and they're almost always wrong about the reasons why they think those things are bad.
Ooh, ooh, ooh.